we're getting going here. We got Chris Budd here from Budd Skycam. Thanks for tuning in to the It's Gonna Be Sweet podcast. I did a little intro. Today we have a special guest. He's the master of his craft. He's a drone racer, drone builder, and best of all, he's a drone pilot at our local tracks in NorCal. He's grown this business from the ground up in 2 years or less, and he's killing the game in the motocross world, side-by-side world. Today we are going to be chatting with C-Bud, and he is going to announce a huge announcement to let everyone know on the It's Gonna Be Sweet podcast. So hear it first on our podcast. How you doing?
Good. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on. Excited to be here for the second one, man.
I really appreciate you coming, man. So you definitely were my first choice. I think your business is killing it. I've known you for a really long time. We used to race motocross together before we ever went to the track, and then somehow we both ended up having booths at the track. 2 different businesses. Mine's CBD, yours drones. But yeah, in less than 2 years, he's made it really far in this industry, and I'm proud of this guy. So fuck yeah.
Thanks, man.
And I want to say hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and the notification bell so you know when we post podcasts in the future. And excited to get into this.
And so basically to start out, I kind of wanted to get into just a little bit about like how we met. Maybe you want to let them know like what we used to do at the track and how you knew me and stuff like that. And I did bring a little photo here.
Nice,
to bring back some memories for you.
Little punk kid used to talk a bunch of trash.
Exactly.
You know?
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear some shit. I want to hear some shit.
Yeah, definitely. That was back good old Sac Raceway days, man. Those were Jared Steinke on an 80 talking shit to everybody. So I think that kid, he beat pretty much everybody out there except for myself and a couple guys.
Don't mess with C-Bud out there. I mean, besides, what's the other
Sherman would go out there, a few guys. But they were doing the Nationals.
Yeah.
So it's like when the Nationals were gone, I was king. But when the Nationals were over...
But there was you, Sherman, and then... What's the dude that races side-by-sides?
Bo Judge.
Bo Judge. He's a boss, too.
Yeah.
I can't even... Sorry, Bo.
Yeah.
But you're a boss as well. So you guys are, like, pretty much top 3 out there.
Yeah. Well, Bo kind of... When I was racing the pro class, Bo kind of stopped. It used to be Thinger and Bo Judge used to... And John Moore. Those 3 guys, those were the pros I'd win a lot when I was, like, on a 80s, right before I got into when I was, like, 125 novice. But Sac Raceway, there's not really, like, an intermediate class. So... Mostly, if you're a fast novice, you ended up just racing the pro class.
I know. I actually got funny story, kind of off topic, but not off topic, but yeah. So like Skinners and all those, like Ethan Locks and all them back in the day.
Yeah.
So like I used to race the pro class with you and shit.
Yep.
And like I would get like top 3 or whatever in there, and then I was novice when I was doing that. So I was at, I think it was Amateur Day National. I was like top 3 in the novice at the national. I go up to the leaderboard and I'm like checking my lap times, and I go, and it says DQ. And I'm like, what is going on here? So like I go up to the ref, and I know him pretty well. I was like, what's going on here? Like I got I didn't even get first place. Like I got 3rd place.
Yeah. So
like, why am I getting DQ'd? And he's like, oh, well, we got some complaints. They printed out your Sac Raceway results.
Oh man.
From the pro class, which is a non-sanctioned race. It is non-sanctioned, so it's technically does not count.
It's like a Friday night dance.
That's what I'm saying. There's beginners that like sign up for that class. So
we would actually, that was the thing, is I would go ask all my vet buddies, the beginners and novices, hey, just come sign up for the pro class, because the more pros, the more money we made. So I would just get everybody's people with no reason to be in the pro class.
That's exactly what I would do.
Just show up the pro class. Hey, I'll take your 35.
Dude, just a few years ago, Steve Thinger, Zach Thinger, CJ Barham, it was like Billy Carpenter, me, and like I think I got like 2nd or 3rd against them, and I beat Billy Carpenter. I beat CJ like twice straight up on a 2-stroke. So like it's fun out, and that's the best thing is like get all your boys going out there. You know what I mean? Like get all your boys out there, and then like if you got 20 dudes on the line, I mean you could win a lot of money because there's full payback. So $30 an entry times however many riders.
It used to be a Friday night. I'd go there, show up, win $500-600 on a Friday night, go home. Being the greatest guy in the world until I met Joe Bennett, and then
Such a good feeling.
and then I met
Joe Bennett will definitely be coming on this podcast, so stay tuned, subscribe. You will not want to miss that podcast. We got some funny shit.
I was like freshly 21, and Joe's out there fighting guys in the 50 class, throwing helmets at each other in the
it's
adult
crazy
50
though,
class.
like because he's such a nice guy though,
dude. He
but
is.
Like obviously we all grow up, because I was like that when I was younger. Like I just pop off, for no reason. And then you look back and you're like, why did I do that?
I was an idiot. Yeah, exactly.
Hothead.
Yeah.
Hothead.
Yeah, so
But yeah,
there's some good times at Sac Raceway. But that's where I met you, man, way
Yeah.
back in the day.
Yeah.
You used to come always talk trash, and I was just sitting there. It's like,
I was
who
in
is this
line.
kid?
We'd be in line, and there's 3 lines for each class. So at C-Bud, we'd have like a close race. Maybe he'd be in one line, I'd be in the other, and I'd just be, I'm gonna beat you one of these days, C-Bud. Don't you worry. I'm like what, a little chode on an 85. Like look at this guy. Like,
Yeah.
like, look at this little chode right
Yeah,
here.
it's
Like I'm
exact-
talking shit to this guy.
Yeah.
Come on, bro.
Yeah, it's
What
pretty
year
funny.
was that photo?
This is, I think this, well, I was 011, so that was I was probably 13 right there.
So 2000, like probably like what,
2003,
2004? Yeah, I turned pro my senior year of high school, which was 2003, 2004.
That's crazy.
So and I did pro for 3-4 years.
So what year did you turn pro again?
I turned pro. I want to say it was like my senior year. It was either senior year or the year after. But I was already racing Sac Raceway.
Well,
pro.
you were pro when I was, like I said, like 13. So it's like,
Yeah,
like
because I'm 37 now, I think. So
You
yeah,
think?
I think.
did we ever
I do that all the time.
Yeah, I
bro.
think.
do
That's
that.
a
I think
count.
I'm 27.
Yeah.
did you need a bottom break?
No, not yet. Not yet. Not yet.
But yeah, so
Inside joke.
it's just crazy that like how far we go back. Just like me and Jesse, we haven't known each other as long, but we have a cool little story, like how we met and how we reconnected and stuff like that. So like we definitely like had a while where we didn't talk, you know. So it's crazy where life takes you. You know what I mean? Like we both were doing our own thing, and somehow I was like, hey, CBD would be good at the track. Everybody enjoyed that, and then maybe like a few months later or something like that, C-Bud came along.
So you hadn't been doing it. See, I thought you were doing it for even longer. So you hadn't been doing it that much longer before?
Started doing the Sweet Aroma CBD at the track. I started it like probably 6 months before I went to the track, and then I know Jared Fish.
Yeah.
And he was like, dude, you should bring it out. And I was like, I didn't even think about that. I know all the promoters.
Yeah.
It had a little bit of a tough time like getting Corky to come on, because a lot of people like have a stigma on CBDs. I don't blame them at all.
Yeah.
They think that there's THC, so there's a lot of CBD out there that does not have THC. So once I did a couple events with Jared Fish, I was like, hey, can I please come to the Triple Crown? I want to come, you know? And so Fish, thank you, Jared Fish. He's literally the reason why I'm able to come to the tracks.
Nice.
So I'll never forget that. He told Corky, you know, everybody likes him. Like he's not selling drugs. He's not selling THC. So let him out. People they enjoy it. There's really no pain relief at the track. So like the only thing you're gonna get is pharmaceuticals,
Especially arm pump, vet riders, things like that. Man, that's
sure.
necessity.
So so like how did you get into motocross? Maybe what's your background? Maybe tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I got my first PW when I was 4 years old. Had my first Sac Raceway race when I was 5. So literally started at Sac Raceway.
Everybody did. We all did.
It was just the place to be.
Dude, I didn't even know what Riverfront was for like 3 years.
So there was actually a track there used to be out in the back, kind of by the river, a little mini track. And so I would ride my PW out there, and Sac Raceway, we'd go to Mammoth Bar, and we just did it for fun. I think I raced like a couple times. Ooh, lost the light.
All good.
No worries.
Yeah. So I raced a few times, but I was just horrible. Like I didn't understand what racing was. So I got into BMX, did that pretty heavily, and then at like probably 13, I got tired of getting yelled pedal. Like you only have your dad yell pedal at you so many times. You're like, I'm done pedaling. So so we got
Doesn't make it easier for sure.
Did your dad grow up racing?
Yeah, he grew up racing dirt bikes. He didn't do bicycles, but he did dirt bikes. So he actually kept his dirt bikes and raced the whole time I was doing BMX and stuff. But I was just like, I kind of got tired of BMX, and then I met one of my best friends till this day, Tony Sherman. So I met him in junior high, and I just got an 80, and like started riding and stuff, and I realized, oh man, he's really fast. Oh, I don't know anything about racing, and he was doing like all the nationals type of stuff. He was winning all big stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna go try this, and I was just getting worked for a few years. Like I was like 80 beginner, solid, top 5 80 beginner. Then I didn't even do 125 beginner. Went to 125 novice. Won a Sac Raceway championship, pretty important in life to do that first.
Yeah.
So, and then we started doing like back in the day, it was like the CMA series and stuff. And the Cal, what was it called? I forget, it was like the Cal
It's a CMC.
CMC and there was CMC and
Cal
CMA
Series MX.
something like that. Yeah, it was like
yeah.
it was like a north south
Golden
shootout.
State.
Golden State. That's what it was. Yeah.
I used to do all those races.
Yeah, and it was like a north south. So you like a championship, you go down to SoCal.
It's crazy how much it's changed.
Dude,
I mean,
so
the whole
much.
series and how everybody like interacts with each other.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I used to go out and do some GFI. GFI back
That
in
was
the
the
day.
best.
That was they were. That
If
was
you're
like,
winning GFI back then, you're the boss of the area.
Exactly.
You know
And now
what I mean?
and now that's basically the pro motocross series, which is
Exactly.
cool. They're all working together.
Yep.
Because now we have all the fastest guys together. I know a couple of years ago when I was showing up to races, I was going to riverfront races. I was showing up to some of the East Street races, and it was just like the turnouts didn't have all the fastest guys. But now it seems like they're all kind of coming together. But for me, I did that for a few years, and then I won an intermediate series when Scott Davis took over the East Street track. Like the first season, I won that, and I was probably 18, and I was like, I can either go win some more trophies or go race pro. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to race pro. So I started racing pro, and then I did 2 years of arena cross. Had a spectacular like 5-shot photo that we can put up on the
Hell yeah,
screen.
I'm down, I'm
You were
down.
you were running the whole circuit.
So
for Rallycross?
I was gonna do the first year I was gonna do it was I think 2006, and I did Arco was the first round, and I went 7th in the lights class, and I went 12th in the 450 class.
Hell yeah.
The next,
So sick.
yeah, the next weekend, so I was like, oh, super high. I was like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Thinger's helping me out with Thor gear. I had
Yeah.
Shano with Oakley. I had everything. I was like, oh, this is great. And then I go to Reno, and when I was younger, I dislocated my hand from my arm, so my wrist doesn't stay in, and I have this shot where you'll see it, just my hand comes off the bar, goes over, bam.
Didn't you
and
post that
smash it.
recently?
Yeah, every once in a while I share it. Yeah,
I think I remember it.
It's a great shot. And then,
yeah,
We'll
so
throw it
yeah,
up.
and if you're not watching this on YouTube, because we will be releasing this on like Spotify, other voice apps. So if you're not, watching this and you do want to see visuals, we will be putting some visuals up on the screen. So yeah, so go to YouTube if you do want to watch this podcast.
nice, yeah. And it just smashed me there and broke a collarbone, and then that was my end of that arena cross series. And then the next year I tried. They used to have a thing called the Buku series.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
So
that's
I did-
what Stanky and all them were. I mean, they just ended that. Like how long ago?
A handful of years ago, and they redid it.
It's
and they changed it.
Arena Cross now, or something like that.
Exactly.
I
Yeah,
got
it
you.
used to be like there was JP1 Oil Arena Cross was one of them, and then the other one was Buku. And I remember when I showed up to that one, Ryan Dungey was like out of a box fan on a Suzuki.
Oh,
No shit.
Yeah, it was like he
Crazy.
just turned pro because he's like a year or two younger than me, and I remember just showing up and I just got worked. Like I should have qualified, and I got stuffed so hard right before the finish line. Dude put a foot peg through the head pipe, and I was just like,
gosh.
all right, I'm 21. I'm getting worked. I'm going to go find a really good job. And then I
Yeah.
had a buddy that's like bought his house at 20 or 21. I was like, all right, what are you doing in life? I'm going to go follow you. And I kind of got away from Moto.
Took me a little longer, but I mean, I still like. That's the thing is like when I was going pro, I had a job. I was full time in college.
It's a
And
lot.
like so, like I had like one of the races at Hangtown. I had a race where I showed up at 7 to get a couple practices in because I was in the pro class. A couple practices in. Drove to my college class at 9:30 after I got one practice. Did my presentation. Drove all the way back to the track. Raced my moto. Like literally, that's how like hard it was for me. Like back then, you know what I mean. So after blowing my bikes up, breaking my wrist, having all those downfalls because when you're a privateer you have one bike, one set. I only had like one helmet, one boot. Like a lot of the racers I know have like 5 sets of boots, 5 helmets, 2 bikes, so like when I was doing it, I'm sure you probably didn't have that many bikes
No,
either. So
no.
we're just out of our pickup truck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's crazy like how much motocross has changed, and like even some of the privateers now have nice vans and shit.
Yeah.
Like when I was doing it, we didn't have that kind of stuff. We're just in our trucks with our gear. We show up. We don't give a crap.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what we look like.
Yeah, I remember we were my first Arco arena cross. We're like set up next to, and back then, man, I can't remember the Yamaha team. It was Justin Brayton was like leading the series back then, and we're set up next to him. They're working on the suspension, and my dad walks over and he's like, "Hey, so we got pretty much a stock suspension. What should we do?" And he like looks at my dad and he's like, "You guys are out here on stock suspension?" And he's like, "Well, we got springs in there for him." And and we're like, he's like, "Okay." He comes over, and he clicks it a few times. We end up sending the suspension down that weekend to Enzo, and they helped us out because I did pretty well that round, and then obviously crashed out for the season. But yeah, privateer's tough. It's great.
Yeah.
There's all those companies that are helping out,
Yeah.
that are trying to make it. But man, pros should get paid way more.
I was listening to a podcast on the way here. It was like the Logan Paul podcast. It had Ice Cube on, and they were talking about like rappers, kind of a similar subject, but it's like how different it was, or not rappers. I'm sorry, basketball players. How different it was back in the day. For like they were riding tour buses and shit to their place, you know. So they have private jets, they got masseuses, they got all these things. Like, would they really be as good back then? That's what he was questioning, you know what I mean? So like, think about the pros now, like what they have, like rigs, they probably got massage chairs, they got, you know, any type of food they need, they got nutritionists, you know, chiropractor,
specialized
everything,
doctors focusing on just them, you know.
And then we got our privateers out there, you know, like Free Hill's actually, he has a nice setup, but other privateers like Cop or like some of those guys, like they got their van, they got their bike, and they're training hard, you know what I mean? They're a little more limited. They're getting title sponsors. They got to like get title sponsors each event just to make those races. So mad respect to those guys, you know what I mean? Like that's why I quit, because I got sponsors, but I didn't really have people giving me money.
That's exactly it.
So I feel like when I left, that's when the like GoFundMe started. That's when all these people were like starting to like donate. So like when I was doing it, I didn't really have that.
There's no online marketing.
That's, you know? I had it.
You remember Sponsor House? People Sponsor House on the website. Here's your 50% off.
But I did it. I had a website. It was steezy520.com. Back in the day, I had a website with all my sponsors, all my highlights, and then I had a
like a MySpace.
Yeah, kind of. But it was like
it was
an actual website on Squarespace.
Squarespace.
Wow. Yeah, I had a full-on website.
When they first started.
It actually had my buddy built that for one of these dudes that like noticed me. He was like, "Hey, I want to help you out." Like, so he built the website for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And he did it for me. Like, that was kind of my sponsor.
Nice.
He let me race his Kawasaki at Sac Raceway a couple times, stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so I did try to do it that way, but it just the market wasn't there yet. Yeah. So I kind of, if I would have stayed in it maybe a little bit longer, maybe I might have been. In
2008, that was also the crash too, so everything was falling off there as well.
Exactly.
I think the whole motocross industry kind of went down. I think it was probably 2014, 15, things really started
it's
picking up a bit more.
I mean, it's changed so much. Even like later in the podcast, we'll talk about like AI and stuff like that. But like, it's crazy how much everything in the sport like has changed. But and one thing I wanted to say when you mentioned Steve helping you, like I remember, so because you were pro when I was, like I said, when I was like 13. So like I was at Springview Middle School in Rockland. He lived right across the street from there.
Oh, nice.
So like I always knew what Thor was. I had Thor gear and I was just a motocross fanatic. So every day after school I'd see Steve pull up to his house in his Thor truck, and I didn't know who he was.
That Tundra.
But I was, "Mom, look, the Thor truck," like freaking out, and he laughs at this because we're really good friends now. Like we lived together. We used to live together.
Oh, nice.
So like we ended up moving in together, and then I had told him that story when we moved in together. I was like, "Bro, I used to like love you, bro. I would like see your car," and I was like, "Thor, oh my god!" Like,
so Steve was the Thor rep.
He was, he was balling.
Got it.
I remember he walked in before one of the arena cross, or it was right after Hangtown, and he's like, "Hey, I got these extra pair of Reed pants." He goes, "He didn't need them; they're yours." And he just threw them, and they were like they'd make 32s and 34s, and they were at 33. And I was like, "Ooh, that even fits me better." I like that.
I love
had
Steve.
the Yamaha on there. I was like, I appreciate it.
Yeah, I love Steve, and he's a grandpa now.
Grandpa?
Wow. Yes. Zach just had his kid
Old
like a couple
man
weeks ago.
thinger now. So that's what we got to call him when you see him. Old man thinger.
We have a inside joke going on actually, because I used to live with him, so like I'm his dad. So he's actually my son.
Wow.
So I call him my son. I say, "How my son? How you doing?
You take care of
him. You doing good?
Yeah.
Okay. Just make sure you're keeping it on track."
Hey, keep his life on track, right? You know, people who are in the motocross, there you go.
Yeah, turn that up.
But so now we'll kind of get into like some of your career and stuff, like how you started. So I wanted to ask, how did your experience like as a pro rider inform you as a drone pilot, if at all?
Yeah, big time. I mean, going in after I got out of motocross, I got pretty heavy into drone racing and stuff, and I didn't really think of putting the two together. And my buddy Tony started riding again, and then one of my dad's best friends, Dave Cook, started riding again. And they're like, "Oh, just take your drone out." And the first time I took the drone out, like I couldn't even make a lap. Like the racing drones that we use fly for like a minute. So it took me a while to build a drone, but after a while I started realizing, okay, this would be really good as a tool to watch yourself back. Like I wasn't even thinking of like, oh, cool edit, a cool video. Like I just started thinking like, man, how much better would I have been if I had a video of myself? So then I was thinking, wow, I need to have a drone that does a full moto. Like if I could see a full moto, because at first it was like, oh, here's a lap. And then I was doing 2 laps, then 3 laps. And it took me a good like 8 months to actually get a full 5 laps at a local track. And then once
that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. And once I did that, I was like, oh, this is perfect. Everybody's going to want a full moto themselves. Everybody's going to be like, oh, this is exactly what I want. I'm so much better. But people are like, nah, no, okay. Yeah, that's cool. It's a drone.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Oh, yeah. And it took a little while.
You just got to market it. Like,
Exactly.
like you said, like sometimes in any business, I mean, we're doing events. So it's any business where we're chasing the next event. We don't know what's going to happen at that event.
Yeah.
Like some events that I did good one year, I might go back thinking I'm going to do that good, and it's not there. So you always got to be moving with the market, moving with the world.
Yep.
You know, so like making different promos, making different things to attract attention.
Yep.
So that's what I've noticed. You definitely do that.
Yeah.
So.
And definitely a big thing is I followed a couple series around one Battleborn up in Nevada. It was actually the first race I ever did. They had a race at East Street, and I went there, and I kind of built a little following from there. There's some great families and stuff that every time I go, they want their kids' footage, super supportives. And then so I kind of like, okay, let me follow these kind of series, and then I kind of got into the pro motocross. And they were a little nervous. You know, the promoters, growing up racing Jesse at East Street, I've known him my whole life.
Oh, yeah.
Fisher, my
Love that guy.
first pro race, Fisher, I think, told me, he's like, you're not a pro. So, you know, me and Fisher go way back, but really like Fisher. And then Scott over at Dixon and Club Moto. Or what did I say, Scott? I said Mike.
Yeah.
Wasn't my Scott. Mike over there.
There's
at
so many
Dixon.
track owners.
So many tracks.
Yeah.
So
and owners that have came about.
Exactly. And he ran Riverfront when I grew up. So him, his wife, and his son, like I grew up with them, like riding all the time.
And he was a CMC series guy.
Exactly.
So he was the one that was doing all those series.
Exactly.
I remember that guy. For sure. He was cool.
Yep. So I always went around with them, all of them. And so it was cool. They're all like, yeah, come in. Basically, I wanted to make sure that we just didn't have drone pilots showing up and just kind of hitting people. I was concerned about that because to me, some drone pilots are like, oh, it's just a drone. It's not going to hurt anybody. It's like, if you're riding a dirt bike, you're not want to be concerned about a drone. Like, you don't even want it to even come into your mind. Like, unless you're looking for like that shot or pointing over, like you have more things to worry about than a drone flying around you.
Exactly.
So for me, it was always like, hey, I'm staying far away. I'm staying back here. I don't want to be a distraction. And then over time, I was like, okay, I get closer, but especially on races, like it's like I don't want to be in a spot where it's like distracting. I don't want to have a kid look over at me and crash, because then that's like the worst thing ever. Like, oh, you crashed because of the drone. It's like, I don't want to be that part. So it's definitely the racing, having the motocross background and thinking of what I would want as a rider is definitely influenced how I fly. Like I've brought a buddy out to film, and he didn't race motorcycles. He understood he's a great pilot and he films all kinds of stuff, but it's just different for dirt bikes. Like he's like, oh, there's flaggers out there. There's a guy walking. It's like, there's
a little bit to warm up the track owners for you to go out there.
Exactly. Well, once the track owners, once they saw me a few times, like, oh, okay. But I remember the first time Fish is like, you're way too close to people. And he'd only seen the videos. Then he came over and looked at the drone. He goes, oh, that's how small it is? He goes, I thought it was huge. I was like, no, it's only this big. And he's like, oh, okay. Well, all right, yeah, you're good. Same thing. The first time I went and filmed at Turlock, it was Cal State race, or no, what's the Mammoth qualifiers?
Mammoth qualifier, LLQ qualifiers.
Yeah,
They're like do 2-day event.
Exactly. I went to one of them, and the guys on the mic like, you're too close, drone pilot.
I think I've seen somebody say something to you, and you're just like, no worries, I got you. Like, don't worry about it.
Exactly. Yeah. The promoter for that series, he like came up. He goes, someone complained about you, and I said, please let me talk to him. I said, I guarantee you, no one's talking. He goes, you don't think they can see you? I go, well, I know they can see my shadow sometimes, but I deliberately do not get in the way of races. So I said, send someone over to me. And he goes, well, nobody actually said anything, but I'm glad you feel that way. All right, you're good.
And honestly, if you do know Chris, like, he's a super nice guy. So it's like, if you have a problem, just come up and ask, and he'll completely explain anything to you. Same as here. If you have any questions about anything at my booth, like, no matter what, just come up. I'm willing to explain anything to you and fix anything I need to fix, or we love feedback. So it's like, we need feedback in order to grow, you know?
Exactly.
So it makes
I really haven't had anybody, any riders or anybody like, hey, this bothered me. It's usually like, oh man, let me see the video, or hey, did you get my crash? You know, that's usually the big one. At the end of the day, did you get my crash? So.
Yeah, and the cool part is when he does these videos, like, you choose your moto. So like, if somebody chooses that moto, like, you're the only one. So like, if you crash, like, he's staying with you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I've kind of noticed that.
Yep.
So that's up to you.
So you want to give us a little pricing breakdown?
So pricing is kind of tough because what I charge out at the motocross races and side-by-sides are different, just because there's 300 to 400 entries at a motocross event, and a side-by-side event there's like 40 to 80 trucks.
And maybe not just pricing, how about like a little bit of the service you provide? You know?
So what what I've kind of gone to is originally I only did the race. I was like, hey, I'll just do the race, give you the video, have a nice day. And then I got so many people asking like, hey, there's no music to it. And it's like, yeah, you can put the music on. Like, no, I want you to do the music. So I wasn't.
That's the whole other side.
Yeah,
exactly.
editing.
Filming is one thing, but editing
So you're
is
using
a whole
Final
nother.
Cut?
Yeah, so I've switched over. I was using another software. Actually, I was using it on my tablet because I was just trying to get through things quick. Like I was like doing edits for really cheap. And I was like, it's just not what I like doing. I don't like sitting at the computer because if I get 10 edits, that could be my whole week. If depending on edit takes me 2 or 3 hours, sometimes longer to get done.
Yeah, we're learning that right now as well. So we did vlogs, but it's different doing the podcast.
Yeah,
So.
and as you go back and you're, this was synced wrong, or that you missed that one, and then that affects everything after it.
Exactly.
It can be sometimes. So I do edits now as well. So I'll do a full video. I'll film a full race, and then I'll give an edit, like a 15-second edits. Usually the views are the highest, and then I'll do a 30-second or like a minute edit. It's kind of what I've been doing. The big thing I haven't really pushed it much, but I've done it for a couple riders, is I'll do a training video. So I used to give lessons when I used to race. So I'll take a video and then I will slow down certain sections, do a voiceover.
Critique their riding.
Exactly. Point arrows out like, hey,
You hear that? That's dope. Like, so
That's
if you have problems on the track, you want to like correct some of your mistakes, that's like awesome right there. Because I also thought about like GoPros, how they have the speedometer on them, but the problem with it is like the track's always changing. So you might be going 30 through that corner one lap, and then 10 laps later you might not be able to go that fast. So
exactly.
I was thinking of it, but I was like, if the track changes, then you can't really base it off the speed you were going.
That's kind of the tough
You know what I
thing.
mean?
When I have a lot of people who talk to me about lap times and stuff, and it's like, yeah, lap times are good, but in a 30-minute moto, the track lap times are typically going to change, even for the best riders. Like you're going to have your lap 1, your lap 2's track is different than your lap,
Heated
12.
laps.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So lap times are good, but if you, like for me, being able to visualize and say like, oh, I was sitting down there, or look at that guy, he did this line and that line and passed me, then I should have done that. Exactly. And that's kind of what I've tried to tell people, like, hey, use this. Even if you don't want an edit, that's fine. I actually appreciate it. If you just want the race footage to go back and say, man, I could have done this line, or look how much I'm sitting down. Some of the best things that I like hearing is someone will be like, my kid watched the video like 20 times and he came to me, he goes, I was sitting down too much. And I'm like, yes.
That's
really
usually
cool.
the problem.
Yeah.
Any beginner and novice.
And it is. And it's so easy. A parent all day long say, you're sitting down. You're oh, who cares, Mom? Who cares, Dad?
Yeah.
But then when they actually see it and then they bring it up. So there's a kid who I've been filming for basically since I started, Tyler and his dad, Randall. I've been doing the training videos. He was one of the first ones I did it with. And then he came to me, he's like, after a race, he's like, do you think you could give him like situational things for a moto? And I was like, man, that is so smart. Like, I wouldn't even think of that.
And you're ex-pro, so it's like we still. That's the thing, is we know everything on our head. We just might not be able to completely do it on the track.
Yeah,
anymore.
my body's not gonna, my body's not gonna work too well. So like I took one of his races where he almost had a whole shot and he just made some bad choices opening lap. He went from like 1st to 5th.
Yeah.
And it's like, hey, you could have taken this inside and blocked it, but instead you decided to go outside. Like, here's what's happening. Look at the 2 guys that passed you. But when you go home, I know me from a race, like I'm like, man, I remember that one time I did that cool corner, and that's basically all I remember. Or like I got second, or I got first, and you don't really remember everything that happened in every one of those corners.
Exactly.
Or what you did over the jump. What caused your swap. So
you just know exactly where they passed you.
Exactly. They got me there.
I remember Mike DiGiordano back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Him? So
Oh, dude, yeah.
so that's when I
was good friends with Buddy
when I was-
Timmy, too.
When I was 18, we were. No, it was Tim. I'm sorry.
Tim, yeah.
Mike is his brother. We went to Clint Edwards together in Lincoln. So like we raced together in the pro class. Like when I was 18, I was just turning pro, and then I quit for a few years and came back.
Yeah.
But we were like every weekend, it was me and him battling for the win.
Yeah.
And then like he'd always get me in like the 2 same spots every fucking race, and I'm like, what is this? Like, because I had the problem where I try to double, and then I'd go too far outside. So like I would kind of like case it and go inside, but he had that corner down. Like every time he passed me, it was in that same spot. And that's all I remember.
If you would have had the drone footage, you'd have caught it first time.
Yeah,
Like, there
that's
it
what I'm
was.
saying.
I got a
never
question
gonna happen
for you.
again. Yeah.
So, are you comfortable with flying over water?
It's actually the one thing I hate more than anything.
Yeah.
It makes me sweat because I have a drone that I can fly over water with and I'm fine with, but like the style of drones that I fly, I don't have GPS or return to home.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
Just the camera.
Exactly. And there's reflections will happen to the actual remote signal. And if you have, they call them fail safes. It's just a split second of video or of control link loss, and that split second's in your water.
Exactly.
So a lot of guys, they'll put like water bottles on the bottom of their drones, and those waterproof. I've got a buddy that does like jet ski stuff.
Oh, and then it'll like float when it lands.
Yeah, exactly. And you just go get it and let it dry out, and you should be good. I just something about it. Like as soon as I go over water, I just start sweating.
That's exactly how I am with. I don't care about flying like in a plane, like in general, like having to do with it, like a plane. Like I'm not scared to fly like in the United States. I do not like flying over the water.
Really?
Like we're going to Hawaii.
And you're scared?
In a couple weeks. I'm not scared. I just don't like it. Like
You're scared.
I'm in,
Yeah.
You're
scared.
I'm a little
like it.
scared.
I'm scared.
Think about it. Like we're in control on the dirt bike. So it's weird because
But we're in the plane. You have no control.
That's what I'm saying. So I have no control.
Gotta let it
and then
go.
ever since
Gotta
I
let it
had
go.
kids.
Yeah.
That's why I changed.
Yeah.
Like I remember like a few years ago for my 30th, we were in the elevator and we were on like the 80th floor in Vegas.
Are you holding your children?
And I'm like, and this thing's going for days, and I'm like, okay, when is this thing gonna stop? Like, is this thing just gonna drop? Because like, and I've never thought like that. Like I'm like pretty much I jump off any bridge. Like I'll do anything like into water and stuff. And then like as soon as I had kids, bro, I don't know if that's changed for any of you, but like as soon as I had kids, like I get anxiety knowing that like I don't care if I care if something happens to them, you know. So like my legacy, you know?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
So it's definitely, and then also before we end that, like maybe you can give like a little breakdown of the pricing for the viewers.
Yeah, so typically my day rate for when I go out and film like a business or someone wants to come shoot, usually it's about $1,500 for me to come out.
Okay.
I carry a $2 million insurance policy that covers it. I also get the airspace approval with the FAA and handle all that. If it's just a race, typically it's $80 to $100 for a moto is what I do, and then edits will range anywhere from $120 to $200.
And they can get the video without the edit that way because it costs obviously
much
raw
much
footage.
You'd rather do that.
I would love it if just everybody just said, "Yep, let me get the raw footage," because then I can do my other job for the rest of the week. So
yeah, that'd be sick. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how. It sounds like you could be very busy this summer, depending on how Hangtown goes. But we got a private little lake, basically right down the freeway here, and I think it'd be so cool to have a drone come out there and film the wake surfing that we do and the jet ski playing around.
We're actually
out there.
I think we're actually going to do a pod on the boat this summer.
Oh yeah,
we're going to set it up in the boat, and because it's private, the lake, his parents own it. So
nice.
So literally like nobody's on the lake, so we can just go in the middle, and it's in Valley Springs. So there's no sound. Out there,
I can put a drone together that I wouldn't mind dunking in the water.
Yeah,
if it was like an event or something like that, like I have all this stuff to do it.
And he's got jet skis, boats. Yeah, and you can bring it's 200 acres, so you can bring a dirt bike and rip around.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Do you have kids?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, you can bring your son.
They'd have a ball out there.
Yeah, just start riding 50s.
Yep.
New PW rider.
Miles of trails out there.
Nice.
So
Yeah,
it's a pretty cool little spot. But something one weekend this summer out there, we should really try and do something like that. We could have a lot of fun.
Yeah, if it's not like a long distance over water, I'm good. Like if it's like if you're not like
it's not huge. Like,
Okay.
So it's what
big enough for a boat though.
It's like 12 acre feet of water.
Okay.
But I'll show you some pictures.
Yeah, it's big enough for a boat.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
And also, I wanted to ask, what kind of like training and education did you receive, like the licensing and stuff? Like how extensive is that
for the drone stuff? Yeah, man.
'Cause that's a good thing. Like when you're hiring somebody to do a drone, you don't want some random dude coming out with a drone. You know, what I mean, you want somebody professional that's licensed that knows like what he's doing. You know what I mean? Like we're gonna get more into the racing, but he actually like races them and builds these things. So you want somebody more experienced doing this stuff. You know?
Yeah, definitely. So back in 2015, I bought my first drone off a guy, and then they had the Drone Nationals, the first one in the world, actually at Cal Expo. So like
right here,
wow. Yeah. So it was like the pilots from all over the world, guys from Australia, Europe.
Sweet.
It was the very first one, and it was like it's really what kind of started drone racing. And I went and watched it. Like all the guys you see like on YouTube or whatever, they were all there. All these guys, I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So it got me real excited into it, and I realized that I don't know anything about computers at that point.
Yeah.
They're like some people from Mexico or New Mexico were like, oh, you're running the wrong software. You got to run this software. And I'm like, what do you mean the wrong software? Like, oh, you got to switch from Open Pilot to Clean Flight. And I'm like, well, how do I do that? And they're like, oh, you just got to flash your flight controller. I'm like, which one's my flight controller? Like what? They're like, oh no, just do this.
Language.
Yeah, they're like, oh, just do this and this. I'll send you a link when you get home. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I don't know if you guys know anything about technology, but I immediately bricked like 3 flight controllers. And at the time, there's no companies that you can get that stuff except from China. So basically, every time I damaged one, I'd have to wait like 3 to 6 weeks to get another one just to immediately plug it in and put the wrong software on to brick it again. And I went through that for like a year of just absolutely hating it. Catching drones on fire, drones flying away, like everything. I was like, this is the worst thing in the world.
So that's probably. Would you say that's one of your biggest challenges?
It's huge, yeah.
Because I was
So
going to
is
ask
that-
that, so you already answered that.
Yeah.
Is that like flashing an ECU on a car?
Exactly.
Okay.
You're basically all drones run on an open source. Well, there's one closed source software, but basically everything's open source. So there was a company made by a guy called Clean Flight. And he was Mr. Clean was his pilot name. So you ran that software, and then when that software wasn't doing enough, a bunch of other nerds came together, and then they made what is it? It's I can't even think of the name. Betaflight. So
Okay.
Betaflight's been the same since like 2017. That's what I run. There was a few more like an emu flight because emus fly.
And does that control like the thrust of the propellers and everything like that?
Everything.
Like,
So there's
your whole shot,
it's
like-
basically so in there's different gyros, barometers, and basically there's this thing called a PID controller they use in NASA to like land like spaceships, and PID controllers are used for all kinds of stuff.
That's what it docks like for you. Is that what that is?
It's a way that a gyro reads data and corrects what it's supposed to do.
Oh, okay.
So it's like there's a P, I, and a D, and then you have that on roll, pitch, and yaw. So you have like 6 value things that I can't understand. One guy's like, oh, one means it's what's going to do in the future. The other one's going to do this. I'm going, what are you guys talking about? This is insane. And I'm like, just raise the I on your roll, raise the P on your pitch. I'm like, and I'd go out there and my drone it would just start shaking and fly, and I'd disarm. I'm like, this is the dumbest thing in the world. So I got tired of it, and I quit doing that kind of drones. And then this new kind of drone, they were called tiny whoops. Basically, this guy in Colorado started putting cameras on these little tiny drones, and hobby shops sold the drones and they sold the cameras, but they didn't put them together. So I went to the local hobby shop, Fast Track Hobbies, where they have slot car tracks. I grew up buying RC cars from him. So I was like, hey, you guys sell this
Same.
drone?
Been there many times.
Oh, yeah, yes. Yeah, Dwight's a great guy.
Yep.
So I was like, hey, you sell this drone and you sell this camera. I want to race him here. And he's like, what do you mean race him? I was like, hey, put these goggles on. He'd never flown FPV, flew it right around his shop, came back. He goes, okay, what do I got to do? And
Probably
I
create
fell in
some-
love.
So you
Yeah.
actually helped that then create some business in there.
created his whole thing.
Dude,
So
that's crazy.
From 2016.
What's your percentage? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, no, it's exactly so. Yeah, hey Dwight, where's it at? So
This is a joke, Dwight. Don't
yeah,
worry.
Yeah, so basically from 2016 to 2016 to like 2018, 19, I ran micro drone races 2 a month, and we at one time actually held the most drone races in the world. So we were having massive. We had drone races where we had people come from all over the West Coast for a really big one. Gave away like almost $1,000 cash, and then tons of prizes and stuff. So I got pretty heavy into the little micro ones, but you didn't do any of the software. It basically, they all ran this software that just, you bought it and it just ran. If it went bad, you just bought a new board. You didn't do it. So it made me feel more comfortable and learn flying. And then 2017, I bought a drone like I fly today, and immediately it caught fire first flight. And
Oh
I was,
my gosh.
I was like 2 years away from it. It's still the same thing. And then slowly I got into it more, found some better equipment, and it was
That'd be
like
nuts, like catching on fire.
Like,
Is
I-
that pretty common? with
super
drones?
common. Like drone races, at every drone race there's a fire. Like I wouldn't say every, but like 90%, because you're racing 4 or 5 drones with spinning blades,
Yeah.
like on top of each other.
and that
to-
one that just got hot. I mean, that was pretty hot, and we only flew it for a little bit.
Yeah, that's just this little video system on top. So with the batteries is
Thing's so
usually
tiny.
is the spots that usually blow up, and those are from prop hits. So like when I film at motorcycle races, there's no other drones. There's nothing I worry about.
Yeah.
But drone races, you're basically flying 5 or 6 drones at the same time, running into each
Oh,
other.
yeah.
Indoors,
Yeah,
right? I
yeah.
mean, I've seen
so
some
indoors
of
we didn't have fires because
Okay.
they're small, but the big
Yeah.
ones like I film at the motocross track, those ones they have fires every time.
And we will throw. He's gonna send me some videos, so we will throw a little clip of him because I've seen some of these clips of you racing them. And when I told you earlier, I was like, when I saw that, I was like, how is he going through there that fast? But then you realize you got these like VR goggles, so it's like you're pretty much like in that drone.
Yeah.
almost like you're flying on it.
Call it FPV, first person view drones. And
crazy.
so basically, you have a camera on the front of the drone, and then you have a basically they call it a VTX, a video transmission system that sends the signal to your goggles. So you're essentially sitting in it like you're, some people say like a fighter pilot or whatever.
Yeah.
You're the pilot. So it's exciting. For the racing was fun because after racing motocross, I needed something. So the motocross, like I was like, oh, drone racing, I can be competitive. But we have some really fast people in the drone community here in Northern California.
Oh, I bet.
A couple guys who actually race professionally on ESPN.
That's crazy.
So
Have you
I
ever tried that, or?
Well, so you have to qualify. So
Okay, I got you.
you qualify
It's
for
like
that.
motocross.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's so they pick I think it's like 18 or 24 pilots a year, and they race massive stadiums like they did the Giant Stadium. The Dolphins owns it. It's called DRL.
That's sick.
And
I'll throw up one of those clips too of the drone racing league. I mean, I saw just a clip on ESPN the other
That's
day,
exactly it.
and they're flying through those like LED triangles,
That's
squares,
exactly.
circles, and I was just blown away
been doing his
because it's
research.
dark in there,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and
they got- they're
man,
lighted-
they're
they're lit
just
up,
going
right? The
so
rings.
fast.
Yeah.
What's the mile per hour on these drones?
So FAA 100 miles an hour is legal with a waiver. When we race drones, usually most racing drones do just right around 100, a little over 100 or so. You usually don't hit 100 because the tracks are small, but you're doing 5 to 80 miles an hour in like 30 feet. So it's
crazy.
wow. So that's like under a second almost.
exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
Faster than a Tesla.
Yeah, you could
Oh, yeah.
you could do 100 miles an hour in a second, like
Wow.
easy. Yeah,
That's
these
crazy.
drones when you do like, so when they launch like our whole shots, basically they do like what's called a preload, where the drone leans forward, and as soon as they
Builds
hear the
up a
beep,
little
yeah,
RPM.
and you just drop the hammer, go wide open, and
Yep.
I mean it's
crazy.
I love the whole shots. It was always very exciting. I always had a really fast drone. I had a smaller drone.
So no wonder you got into this. I bet you're getting a fat adrenaline rush.
It's
off of
exactly
this.
it. Yeah, you come home and your mind is
I
tired, but
bet.
your body's
What's
like, oh, I got
video
an arm
game?
pump.
What's like
Yeah.
a video game?
Except it's real life.
Yeah.
So that's the thing,
That's
is
crazy.
everything that's going on around you. We built a
And when you wreck, you're actually wrecking. You're
You're
not,
wrecking,
You're
yeah.
not. No game over.
and someone's
yeah.
yelling, fire, fire, and you're like, everyone's taking their goggles off. Oh, where's the fire? So
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's drone racing was a lot of fun, but like I said, we just had some really fast people. So like Miwu is one of the guys who races on DRL, and I'd race with him a few times, and it's like night and day. Like you have someone who it's like showing up and go trying to race against any factory rider. Like
Yeah.
you're like, okay, factory rider, I'm doing it fun on the weekend, but when you race drones, you could spend $1,000 to $2,000 in blowing up drones for the weekend, and then you got to race in 2 weeks. It's like, all right, I'm gonna go drop another couple grand to go blow it up again,
Oh my
just so I can hope I can get that 3D medal, which I loved. It was a lot of fun. I loved it all the time. It was more like hanging out with the boys, kind of like that camaraderie thing.
Yeah, yeah.
That was more than anything. I had a lot of really good friends, still to this day, from drone racing and stuff. That I'm glad I did it, and now it's led me into this. But it definitely. I can't tell you how many drones I've blown up and rebuilt.
That's crazy.
From
I know.
racing.
I mean, every business has its expenses. So
Yeah.
people, you think, oh, it's just a drone. Like he just flies it. No, I mean, anytime you break that thing.
Yeah.
Like I just got a little RC car, and my cousin came over for Mother's Day, and he wrecked it into something.
Yeah.
Completely destroyed the front end. So these things aren't indestructible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you probably spend a lot of money on these drones.
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah. And
business expenses.
Yeah, and one of the things that I learned quickly was batteries don't last. Like when I raced
Yeah.
drones, like batteries didn't last because we blew them up and we crashed into them and we cut them open. But I was like, oh, when I film, batteries are just going to last. And I'm finding batteries only last about 2 months. So I'm going through $400 to almost $1,000 in batteries every
Wow,
2 to
my
3
gosh.
months. So it's like originally my prices were a bit lower, but then I was like, wait, if I can't do a full moto, now I got to discount the race. So it's best just to have new batteries at all times, so I don't have to say, hey, I missed your last lap and a half or whatnot. Like I got your full race.
It's like that saying: if you want it good, it's not cheap. If you want it cheap, it's not good.
100%.
You know?
Facts.
So
Facts.
keep that in mind when you're using him. I mean, he's actually really good at it. So
Yeah, there's a lot of I actually talked to a lot of pilots around the world who do similar things. A guy in Canada that I talked to, and he charges $100 per lap. He's like, you charge how much for a race?
That's crazy.
Yeah, he's like, I do $100 a lap. I'm like, man. Well, I know
I'm sure you'll get
Canadians'
there.
dollars different.
Yeah.
But he's got to the point where he's basically, him and his wife and his brother are traveling around doing resorts around the country or around the world, and they just go film them. I'm like, man, dude in Australia is doing similar things. So I see kind of like all these people doing stuff, and
Yep.
it's like, it's just the beginning, and for what I'm going to be doing next.
Well,
I mean, it's just
we'll
the
be talking
beginning.
about that in a minute here.
Yeah.
We definitely have a good announcement. And I also wanted to ask, like, how do you, like, I always wondered that because you have those goggles on, I know, but like, how do you stay focused? I mean, you got all these, like, he's in this little tent You know, he's got all his shit hooked up, his batteries on the charger, extension cords everywhere, and you got people just crowded around the booth while he's doing this. So like anytime I walk up and I see him with those goggles on, I'm coming back to talk to you. I don't want to distract you. So like, how do you stay focused if some little kid or somebody comes up and, you know?
So actually, it's funny because I'll talk to people while I'm filming because when we race drones,
I saw that.
you just all talk crap to each other the whole time.
It's like Call of Duty.
Yeah, it's exactly. You're all like, I'm coming. I can see you.
It's like a
because you're all
it's like a game chat. Or
exactly
whatever.
because you all
funny.
sit under a tent. You're all
That's sick.
5-6 pilots sit together.
Yeah.
So as you're sitting on the
okay.
line and you're
okay.
hitting their
Got
countdown, you're talking crap to each other before
sure.
you take
So
off.
funny.
Sure.
You crash, you start yelling, I'm down. It's like, sit down. I'm still racing. Like, so you get used to it. So when I'm filming, it's kind of weird. Like there's certain days where I'll get an out of body experience. Like I'll realize like I am sitting in a chair because usually once I take off, my brain just goes, okay, I'm in the drone. I'm flying. I'm no longer sitting in a chair. The hard part is when I remember I'm sitting in a chair. And then once I'm sitting in a chair, then I'm like, oh, there's a drone out there. I need to make sure I'm in the drone. And I'll tell my dad, like my dad spots for me. I'm like, oh, well, here we go. I'm back in the chair. I need to get back in the drone. And he start laughing at me. But just like mentally, long days, like if I've done like, 15, 20 motos in a day, and those are 10-minute motos. So
I mean, I can't even imagine
long
like
time
just
staring
even
at the
playing a
screen.
video game for more than like 2 hours. I get drained, you know.
Yeah.
Like,
And it's under the goggles. What I've also learned the longer days I've had is I'm basically sitting in a black room.
Yep.
And then as soon as I take the goggles off, everything's bright. So I've been trying to do more eye drops on my eyes because
Yeah.
I'm realizing my eyes are straining more and stuff. So
and they always tell you, like they say back in the day, like all our parents back in the day say, don't sit in front of the TV screen.
my goodness.
Guess what?
yeah,
Guess what?
I have to.
We're doing it.
Yeah,
We're living, baby.
Yeah.
It's different now. You're probably getting 10 times as many pixels now
Yeah.
as there
You know
was
what my
back
parents
then.
also taught me?
Yeah.
Don't do anything else but college and get a job. And guess what? Now everybody's making millions, not working
not
and
a
doing
million.
podcasts.
Yeah.
So maybe I
One
should
day.
have. Thanks, mom and dad. No, I'm just kidding.
One day we'll make millions. One day we'll be
Yeah.
making
I
millions.
think a lot of people think that though, like they're like, damn, we should have just done. Because there was a point way back in the day where I had some YouTube videos and stuff, but I didn't really know what I was doing.
Yeah.
But like if I would have just kept uploading,
Yeah.
like I could have probably been farther. But I didn't know. We don't know what's gonna happen. Like just like you don't know when you buy a Bitcoin, it's gonna go to $50,000.
Yeah.
You don't know that.
100%,
So
man.
it's- can't tell the future.
Yeah, 100%.
At least not yet. Maybe
yeah.
someday.
Yeah, ChatGPT might be able to.
Yeah.
So I wanted to ask like a little bit about like social media and stuff like that and how that helps your business. So like what role has social media played in your career? Like for the motocross, and how has it gained like new clients and followers for you?
Yeah.
How much of it has it helped?
I mean, if it was around back when I was racing motocross and how I used to kick myself in the head, I feel like I probably would have had a lot more sponsors.
Yeah.
So I wish social media was bigger back then.
Yeah. It's changed. I mean, so much.
Because now basically
That's how you market yourself.
It's
these
exactly
days.
it. And there's some parents that I filmed that they get it so well. They understand, like, they run their kids' account.
Mm-hmm.
They act all the posters as if they are the kids, which I think is good. And I'm sure the kids probably see the comments and things. They probably let them see what they want them to, which I think is great. But for a sponsor's take, I mean, if you have a beginner with 50,000 views, or you have a top, 65 rider and he's got, somebody,
Zero.
zero
You know?
followers on there, the sponsors are like, well, yeah, you might be faster, but at the same time, we're a business and we want it to be marketed. And so that's where it's kind of gone. And when I had a parent tell me like, hey, if we can have so many followers that we can actually, they'll increase our percentage based on our follower count, I was like, really? I said, that's awesome. So then I started gearing. I was like, how can I get my videos to have the highest views?
Yes.
So I started making the videos really short. Before I was like, oh, let me just run a whole lap, because that's what I like to see. I want to see the whole lap.
For sure.
I want to see it wide. I want to see the whole track.
Exactly.
But social media wants 10 seconds,
And they
15
want, like, the
seconds.
triangle
Yeah, it's got to be the
or
real
rectangle
style.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Triangle.
Short form content.
Short form, real,
Yep.
up close.
Yep.
And one of my good buddies who was doing drift stuff, he kept telling me, he goes, dude, you don't want widescreen. He goes, you got to go real format. I was like, yeah, but then I'm missing like the other rider, or I'm missing this. He goes, that's what they want. And then as soon as I started doing that consistently, I had a couple of videos hit 1 million views. I had quite a few at 500,000, a lot at over
Oh,
100,000.
shit. Congrats, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man.
That's hella good, bro.
So-
I noticed that that's why I'm like, like it's crazy. Like I said, when I first started this podcast, like when he first started his business,
nothing.
It wasn't like crazy big, and then but it's so cool what you're doing. I
Yeah.
mean, like even when you first came out, I thought it was awesome. You know what I mean? So and now and once you get like the promoters behind you, and that's when it really helps. Because like I said, I wasn't able to go to certain races. Even sometimes I'm not able to. So it definitely helps to have those promoters and like people once they notice you. And then all those promotions you're doing and stuff like that, it helps. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, the promoter's been huge, and I've been trying to work with them because I know for promoters it's a business.
It's all right, no worries.
It's a business. So what can I do to help their business out? So I try and do like a track preview, so people before the races, before they come, can actually see what it looks like.
Yeah.
Try and give them videos afterwards. So
that's what I
people can
noticed
see.
you were doing, that track. That's why I was like, oh, it's sick. They're doing the track preview now, like just like Supercross.
Yeah.
It makes it cooler.
Thinking about it, like almost every single business I can think about like could use a drone, you know, because I saw this one on Instagram the other day. It was like some bar in Tennessee, but they were flying through the bar, and it was just so cool to see that perspective, you know. So I really do. There's so many opportunities for
That's a
drone
huge
pilots.
market.
Yeah,
a lot of guys who come from just drones. That's like there was a bowling alley video that was done a couple years ago, where a dude like flew through the bowling alley and then went behind the pins and stuff. And that happened. Everybody's like, "Oh, I can do that!" And so everybody went to every business and trying to fly their drones through. Now
they're wrecking them everywhere.
Dude, they would post them all in the drone groups, and you see, "Oh, he crashed into the counter. Oh, look what I hit!" Like, and it's looks easier than it is. And if you have a drone, a lot of times I'll have people come to me, "Oh, I got a drone. I got this," and it's like, "Yeah, you have that, but go try and do this with it, or go try and do that," and then realize like it's not just as easy as, "Oh, I have a drone, I fly it."
And I actually, because I was gonna tell you the story in the beginning, but now you kind of cued me to tell it. So this is why you don't hire somebody that's random that just bought a drone from Best Buy. So I was at Bellagio in Vegas for my I think it was one of my birthdays. I don't know, or my wife's birthday or something. And I was down there smoking, you know, and this guy had a drone. It was cool. It was like one of the nice ones from Best Buy.
Yeah.
And
Like
I'm
a
talking,
DJI
I'm
Mavic,
talking to
something like
him
that?
about it, and he was just gonna get the fountains. So and he's like, yeah, it docks itself, all that. So he was docking it on the pillar, like the little pillars with the fences.
Ooh.
Yeah. So he did his thing, and then he's gonna dock it, and it was like messing up the dock. It wasn't going in the right spot, and there's people. So this dude goes to grab it with his hand. Dude, I'm telling you, blood everywhere. Literally, like he grabs it. Oh my God. And his fingers are bleeding everywhere. I run into the Bellagio to get paper towels. By the time I get out, he just took his shirt off and he has his hand wrapped up. And there's literally, this is the first year of the pandemic. So there's people walking by, and there's literally just blood all over the concrete.
Oh, everyone's
and I
freaking
didn't
out.
get it on me somehow, but it was everywhere. And like people were like, you know, weird people. They're tripping about it. I was like, whatever, I'll get you some paper towels.
Yeah. You got AIDS. There's AIDS on the ground.
But literally, like, and then we ended up.
COVID.
My old Instagram got deleted, but we used to follow each other. But that guy literally like had to leave and go to the emergency room to get stitches, and he said he literally got like tons of stitches in his fingers.
Yeah.
Like it hit bone.
Yeah.
Like that thing. That's how crazy these fins are. Like, so yeah, when you're out there, don't ever try to touch the drone.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a no.
Yeah, there was actually, I was at a race at Riverfront, and all the promoters basically were like, hey, if someone asks to fly a drone, they send them over to me. I'll kind of vet them, make sure they have the insurance, make sure they have all that stuff, licensing, airspace clearance and stuff. Because the worst thing for me is like someone that messes up at the track and then they have a bad taste because
of them,
an inexperienced person, did something that was dumb.
Exactly.
So I had some person come to me at the end of the race like, hey, do you got that video of my dog? I was like, video of your dog? Like, oh yeah, you're getting really close to my dog. My dog was like jumping at the drone. I was like, no, I would never fly at a dog. What are you talking about? They're like, oh, that wasn't you flying your drone? Like, it was at Riverfront on one side, and they had their
Somebody
dogs,
else.
and someone had a drone, and they were flying, like, going back and forth over the person's dog. I was like, that's one of the dumbest things you could do.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't control the dog. The dog bites it. That dog's going to the vet. Like,
Yes.
It's one thing to, fly a drone, but understanding the risks involved.
Yes.
Like, I've seen so many people do dumb things. Like, when I first got into drones, if you plug a drone into a computer with a battery and something's off, the drone can actually take off. I know this because
That's scary.
when I very first happened, I thought I was going to die. I plugged in my computer, I'm in my room, and I plug it in, and all of a sudden the drone takes
Shoots
off
up, like-
with the props into my monitors, flies in the room,
Did it
and
break your
luckily
monitor?
unplugged. Somehow it didn't.
Oh, God. Okay.
Like I was just like, it scared me, and everyone's telling me take your props off before you plug in. And I was new, and I was like, after plugging it in like 6 times and doing props off and on, I was like, nothing's gonna happen this time, and then it did. And since that day, I've never
Yeah,
plugged into a
crazy.
drone without it. Like
And
that's all
how,
it took.
That's how humans are for anything. Like we think just because it hasn't happened yet that it won't happen. Like I've done that. Like you do something 50 times. You're like, no, I've done this like 100 times.
Yeah.
Like, and then all of a sudden, that last time,
Yep.
or like Jesse, do one more Willie, Cameron. It's always the
Yeah.
one more time.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yep.
that's why you never
That's
say
when
one
you go
more.
down.
Never say one more time, one more lap,
No.
one more session.
Yeah,
Can't
and
do
one
it.
thing I wanted to ask was like, to you, like, how has motocross like changed? You know, like since we were younger. I mean, as far as like bike setup goes, I mean, so many technical things now.
I mean, I
like
feel
AI.
I feel like there's way more trainers than there were back then. I mean, back in the day, I think Pastana, he was still doing it back then, but I don't feel like there was I think it was like a Donnie Hansen school back
Yeah.
in the day.
I did the Donnie Cantalupi. I have his picture.
Oh,
over
okay,
somewhere.
nice, yeah.
He's the one who made me stand up. That's when you were talking about standing up,
Yeah.
sitting down. He was like, oh, that's what he'd make us do. Stand up around the whole track for 5 laps. And then you're like, holy shit. And then you figure out like where you're fast standing up.
Yep.
Because when you do that, there's so many places that you're like, damn, like I'm way faster standing up here. And you didn't even notice it.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah, so I would say there's way more training. Like I feel like there's training going on like every day at every track. So I think that's like a big change that I've noticed. But dirt bikes, I mean, fuel injection's nice.
Crazy,
but
yeah.
I mean, no kickstart, that's nice. I still got kickstarts on my bike.
Yeah.
But
And the mapping that they're doing
mapping
these
is
days
crazy.
is just
Like that Yamaha map they have, like you can literally just
Yeah.
like go in there. And,
see,
adjust it on your iPhone.
That's Stark, man.
and I really
that's
do. But
stark.
one thing I believe heavily is that they were not training as hard as
Oh,
they
no
are these
way.
days. You know what I mean?
Carmichael's definitely, I think he was the turning point where everybody like had to start training. And now at this point, if you're not,
Yeah, I mean,
out
it
the
helped
Baker's
me
camp.
tremendously.
Yeah,
I
right.
mean, like I used to train with Keith Knight and like Garrett Polo
Yeah.
and like Andrew Floyd.
Yeah.
So when when I first got my first like top fives and amateur,
Keith
pro
rides
and
a lot of
stuff,
bikes.
So we would go to Keith's house and train. I mean, like, and I was fast when I started training with him, but after the 4th lap, I would just be gassed, and I was obviously smoking, doing things I shouldn't be doing back then,
Partying, living the life.
doing tons of things I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Motocross
I
life.
don't regret it much, a little bit, but I had fun. So as long as
I got you where you are now.
I'm here and I'm kicking, so
Yeah.
I'm alive. So that's all that matters. But yeah, we
Hey,
would
Joe
train.
Bennett's still alive. So.
Yeah. Oh my God. I was saying, if Joe Bennett's still
Joe
alive,
Bennett's
then
alive?
I have to be alive.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, so we were, as soon as I started training and doing all that, like, I mean, like that's how I pass people. Like maybe my lap time was a couple seconds slower the first 5 laps.
Yeah.
But like when I first did my first pro race, like Corey Pennington was way faster than me.
Yeah.
And like the last 2 laps, I passed like 7 guys. And obviously he was one of them, a couple other guys. It was like, I'm like, oh my, I just passed Corey Pennington. But it's like, yeah, obviously like he might be faster the first few laps.
Yeah.
But by doing those motos and training as hard as you can, I mean, you want to be the same, even if you're a couple seconds off, if you can keep that same lap time all the way till the 20-minute mark.
Yeah.
I mean, then a lot of those guys are falling down. They're not down, but they're falling off. Their lap times aren't staying that fast.
100%.
So-
yeah, no, that training, a big thing. I think there's just so many, whether it's what is it called? Like not the My Laps. It's man, there's that one where they put on and it tells them like what line they
Yep,
took.
I saw
Oh yeah,
that.
he told me about that.
Yeah, there's
It
a-
like tracks. It's
Kind of
hooked up
similar
to
to the
GPS.
speedometer thing I was talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
a GPS thing. And
They
so,
provide a bunch of info.
and then it overlays the actual Google Maps of the track. So if the Google Maps is updated to the way the layout was, you can actually see that. One kid I chased a lot, Tyler, his dad was showing me that.
Bauer?
Tyler Scheller. He's
Okay.
a beginner who
Okay.
he actually did. Shout out to Tyler. He did his whole last year. He was 80 beginner, barely making top 5s.
Yeah.
I started helping him out. We did his first training video, and he was doing a bunch of training with Mike Gorda out there, Moto Mike. And every race, I was just going out there, and he would come up and he'd ask me things. And a lot of people, nobody's seen me ride. Like I haven't ridden since I've been doing Bud Skycam stuff. So he'd come over, and his dad, they'd ask me questions like, "Hey, what could we do here?" And my dad was like helping him with bike setup, like, "Oh, dude, your forks are binding." Like, "Our forks are binding." It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, and we'd adjust them. Like, look, now your forks work.
Exactly.
And so
Suspension, dude, is
so much. And
That's it.
since me and my dad have done all this for so long, it's
Yeah.
like we have the knowledge. We're not trying to go out there and tell you, "Oh, do this way, do that way." But if someone's going to ask,
Yeah.
or say, "Hey, can I get some help?"
Yep.
So we helped him out, and then last year or this past Pro Motocross series, he got second and third every single round. No, I think he got like 4th once. Led the championship, and then in the
Nice.
very final round, got his first overall.
Hell yeah.
And but
That's
it was
the best, dude.
Dude,
when
it was
you get the first, even if it's the last race,
Yeah.
like like I remember when I started in the beginner, I was getting like 13th, 15th.
It's
and
a struggle.
every race. I remember every race I would go. I had the Cali before I had that Suzuki. Every race I would bump up a couple places, bump up, and then I started getting the top 5s.
Yep, that
That's
confidence.
Yes, and I was like you. I never was like super fast on 80s. I went to novice, maybe it was like top 5 novice, maybe even like top 10.
Yeah.
And then once I was just like a little, like this picture. I mean,
Yeah,
I
look
was
at
a little choked.
Look at
You
that.
know, like
That's
I was
sweet.
too big for this bike, so
Yeah.
I was like scared to hit some
Hey,
of the
but
big jumps.
that's a nice Fox gear right there.
That's what I'm
though.
saying.
You
Dude,
were-
no, I got
you were-
got Axo helmet.
Axo helmet, dude. That was a
I was
legendary
little-
helmet right
I was a
there.
little, what do they call it? A little poser. No, I'm
Yeah,
just kidding.
dude.
I got the Axo helmet, the Fox chest protector, the Fly shirt and pants, Fox boots. Yeah, I got everything.
Why would
Any
you
type
be a
of gear.
poser?
I mean, I'm just saying, like, that's frowned upon these days. Wearing every different type of gear.
dude.
Yeah.
At one point in time, man, on 80s, I had a Walmart motocross jersey. Like I thought
Yeah.
I was cool. Like
Yeah.
I went to school too. Look at this. Yeah, isn't
I
that
remember
Walmart?
I walk up
Yeah,
to kids
who
at school
cares?
thinking I'm cool. Like, you ride dirt bikes? And they're like, no. I'm like, why are you wearing a Fox shirt?
That's right, dude. That was such a big
Yeah,
thing, man.
yeah, right.
Fox,
That was the poser
Wolf
thing.
Racing.
You don't ride dirt bikes
Yeah.
when you're an 8th grader. You're like,
Yeah.
you don't ride dirt bikes. Why do you have a Fox shirt on?
Yeah,
Just an
exactly.
asshole little 8th
Dude.
grader.
Yep.
Let the mountain bikers slide, but that's
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
That's
At
it.
least-
No, that kid didn't even ride anything.
Yeah,
I'm like-
true.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
have you used anything? So like obviously we talked about like how it's changed, but like have you used any of that Chat GPT or like any AI? Because it definitely helps. Because like if I didn't have, I write most of it, but like I don't have time to be sitting there for like 3 hours writing a script, you know. And
Yeah.
we're not really scripted, but you want to have like a
flow.
like some talking points, you know, that we
So
can just
I
look at.
Yeah, I use it for my website. I did some stuff on there. I also my other business that I do. I'm an acquisition manager for a flipping business.
Oh,
so
sweet.
So I do like advertising and stuff and marketing. So I've used that for scripts and things because you can like write something, but when you throw something in ChatGPT, dude, it just comes out with all crazy. Oh, make it a little kinder. Have it a little more pleasant.
It's so impressive.
Yeah,
dude.
more call to action or however
Yep.
you want to say it, however you want it to.
Exactly.
So it's amazing what it's going to be like. Like I don't know if there's a reason for college anymore. Sorry guys for saying that.
Exactly.
Seriously,
But like
man.
if you go to college and you have to write an essay based on a book or based on something, what is that essay for? What are you learning when you can just ask it and it'll tell you
Exactly.
that in a minute? I think like the biggest thing is like you need to learn these things so you know how, but what if you can press a button and all that knowledge is there? Do you need to remember that or do you just need to know how to
Exactly.
get it? Because
and how like sourcing these days, like
man.
that's the problem. Is like essays, they make you source things. I think that's funny about the news and shit. Like I remember when I was in college, like they
MLA
make you
format?
everything. You
Oh
got
my
to source the right
gosh.
link.
Yeah.
It has to be the right link. But now it's like
In the
you-
right format
you got,
of the
like,
link.
Now you got 2 sides of links. So now it's like, oh, that side isn't right.
Yeah.
Or maybe the teachers on a certain side. So it's
And
like, so who's
ChatGPT
right?
will do
What
it for
link
you.
Yeah.
is correct though? So how are you supposed to, like, how am I supposed to know when I'm doing a link these days? Like if that's correct, because everything is a lie these days.
Yeah, that's-
you know what I mean? So it's hard to figure out.
And that's what they also say
Yeah.
too. ChatGPT a lot. There's I got a buddy that's really into it, and he's found ways to get it to trick it to do stuff, and basically
Yeah.
like telling him like, oh, I have this license, or oh, I'm a police officer,
I
or
saw
oh,
that
I'm something
video.
like this. And it's like, I'm like, what? Like he has a security background, so he's like, I have this security clearance for this, and this is why I need this information, and it gave it to him. Like
That's sick.
That's
we could do that
crazy.
for Lawrence Medical, like all the.
Oh, yeah.
Like tell Larry, like give me all the like regulations.
Yeah, let him
and
know
all
what your
this.
medical-
Yeah,
what
do that.
medical
That's
stuff.
that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's crazy.
for sure.
So
Yeah, and then also about AI, I saw this other podcast the other day, and there's this new. It's just like ChatGPT. I forget what it's called, but it's just like ChatGPT. You can type in what you want, and it'll generate any photo you want. Like this guy
Yes,
showed this, like he
yeah.
wanted to get like make a picture of this model girl, like this,
Yeah.
just like his dream girl.
Yeah.
and he literally he said 1 minute. He typed in what he wants his dream girl to look like, how he wants the photo to look.
Yeah,
Boom,
it's
pops up on the
It's
screen.
by the people who made ChatGPT, OpenAI.
OpenAI.
It's
We'll
called
throw- we'll-
Dolly.
Yeah, we'll throw
And,
that on the. We'll throw
yeah.
that little picture of that girl on the screen, like, and he was talking about how like off topic with drones, but I mean how literally like OnlyFans and how there's gonna like it's gonna take over like AI.
Yeah.
There's gonna be like fake girls on OnlyFans.
Well, I think that's
mean,
already
like,
that's already a big thing. Is that girls podcasters or people who aren't in that scene are now having AI like what is it, a deep fake or whatever?
Yeah,
that whole
run
stuff.
the account.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like that's,
Well, yeah, that's what he's talking about. Like, there's dudes paying people or girls thinking that they're talking to these girls, and it's just some dude probably or some random chick talking
Yeah.
to him that's not even the right girl.
It's a crazy thing about
No,
technology.
it's AI, bro.
Yeah.
Well, that too, but they also have that
Catfishers?
probably, but I'm sure they have people like the Andrew Tate was talking
Yeah.
about it. He was talking, oh yeah, I just have people. We're running the chat,
Yeah.
and they're just doing the videos.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
these dudes really think that you're talking to them. You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be
crazy,
scary
bro.
once they have once they combine like those Boston Dynamic robots, if you've ever seen any of
Those
those.
are
But with
crazy.
they combine that with ChatGPT, that's going to be a scary world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
they
know?
said they're gonna lease like sex dolls out.
Mm.
Like you're gonna be able to
Crazy.
like they're talking about they're gonna be able to like lease a doll out. And like
That's-
he's talking about how like
That's a
you're gonna be
that's a
able-
collapse of society. I feel like
Yeah,
because at that point, who's getting married?
I'm happily married.
I'm happily married too
Yeah.
most of the time. I mean, I love you, babe. happily married all the time.
I prefer human women.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah. I mean, but that's the thing is like, it's going to be for like sociopaths. I feel like it's like a guy that doesn't want to hear the truth because it's
Yeah.
like, that's what he's saying. Like you're going to be able to create a doll that will just, anything you tell that doll, it'll just be like, it'll just go with you. It'll go along with your narrative. You
That's
know?
the thing, you know.
So like, I want to be called out for my bullshit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even sometimes
Well, you just tell the AI. You tell your.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just gonna
Call
have a
me
robot.
out.
You turn the bullshit meter up.
I mean, you're just gonna have
Your bullshit meter.
what's that one Disney movie where the house talks to itself or talks to you or whatever? Just gonna be like that, except there's gonna be a robot walking around. Just okay, what do you need? All right, give me a
God.
glass of water.
Yeah.
What are we gonna be used for? We gotta. Elon Musk already said they should cut it off, so we should probably just. He's pretty smart.
Dude,
yeah,
it's
I mean, Terminator, right? It's AI taking over
it's just
the world.
crazy
so-
how
yeah.
in general, not even just motocross, like how much AI is changing the world. I mean,
Yeah.
like even like I was talking to him about that, like on TV when you're watching Supercross, it's like they have like Jet's face on the landing. They got like Peacock on the landing. They got all these cool like things they're doing on the screen
Yeah.
for you to make it more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah.
So like I personally like watching it on my couch. Like,
Yeah.
I like going to Supercross once a year.
Yeah.
But it's like it's really hard to keep track of where the riders are and like which riders in
Miss a crash.
Yeah.
It's like
can't go back
you
and
can't
rewatch
watch
that.
the whole thing.
Ah, what happened over there?
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah. So there's like when I like the last 2 years doing the booth at Hangtown.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're actually going to be doing the booth at Hangtown this year and Laguna Seca coming up. So last 2 years at Hangtown, my booth's not that close to the track. So like I'm so busy I can't really watch.
Yeah.
So as soon as I'm done at the track this year again, I'm probably going to go over there to my house, sit on the couch and just click
Watch
that baby
it.
on and watch
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
We're
'Cause,
we're
like,
going to Hangtown to work.
yeah,
you
we're
know?
going to Hangtown to work. I mean,
So-
we're gonna have another employee, so I'll be able. We'll take turns. I
Yeah.
want to go watch a little.
Hopefully
bit.
you're as busy,
But that
you'll get
year
to
I
take
was
turns.
like
Yep.
so busy I couldn't even leave.
That's great.
But that's a
yeah,
good thing.
That's
Yeah.
a good thing
So-
for sure.
Crazy. Same with like for like videoing wise, there's a it'll follow the rider. You can pick it out. I haven't really used it much. It looks, I don't know. I kind of like my style where like, you can see the rider doing his thing, but now there's guys doing videos where they locks onto the rider, and it's cool because it's like those TikTok.
Oh,
with the
I
hand.
know what you're talking about. They like lock onto the head. in the
Exactly.
TikTok. Yeah.
So it's like the video is smooth. It like matches the guy's head, but everything
Yeah.
around it's moving. I mean, it's a cool shot. The guy that does the Nationals, he does that quite a bit with his Mavic, but just different styles. But Final Cut, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like we realize you have to do like certain steps because like once you like match it and then you try to like add like a clip in between it, it's
Messes.
Yeah, so that's one thing we're gonna have to figure out more.
Yeah.
But it's cool. YouTube is great. We love you.
Yeah.
Because I learned so much on
You learn
YouTube.
everything.
Like I don't really know everything, but just from like any questions I have, I just throw it in there and
Yeah.
like Think Media. There's a couple other good ones in there that they've tremendously helped me. Like just thumbnails and clips and all these things that you need to do. Because like a lot of people just think like, oh, we can just start a podcast and upload a video, but most of the longer
Well, you
videos
can,
don't really get
technically.
that many views though.
Yeah,
Can.
they're just not very good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you got to do all these different marketing ways. Just like you're doing TikTok, you're doing YouTube, you're doing Instagram.
I'm struggling on TikTok, man. I got to do better. Everybody tells me it's on TikTok.
I'm surprised that you're. I mean,
I
you
just
think
don't. I just don't. I don't post on there enough. It's like Instagram's kind of. I did really good at Facebook at the start, but then I started getting so many bookings off Instagram that I just kind of stuck with Instagram. And now I've had people like, you need to be on TikTok. And
Well, TikTok has the most daily users out of all the apps. There's 300 million daily users on
so
TikTok
crazy.
that spend an hour or more. 300 million people spend an hour or more on TikTok. So yeah,
I appreciate you helping me out with that because it makes me feel even worse having to do it.
And if
No
you do,
problem,
I'll
bro.
get
I
it
got
done
you.
now. I'll
I
get
got
on
you.
it.
if you do hear a little kid every once in a while, that's my child out there. So sorry, guys.
He's riding.
He's ripping his little bike out there. So, yeah. So we know that you do the drone footage at the track. You do the side-by-side stuff. You do a lot of different things with the drone racing. He builds I mean, all these drones that he's flying out there, you're building them yourself, which is like, that's how you know this guy's good at what he does. I mean, that's not easy. I mean, I do electronics myself, and building that would be pretty difficult. So that's cool.
Respect.
Yeah.
Respect.
So we already kind of talked about all that. What I wanted to talk about is like some of the cool projects that you've done. I know you've done a really cool project recently.
Yeah, I went and did with Rosa Yamaha. Well, I think it's like Rosa Power Sports now. Rosa Yamaha, Kawasaki. Did some shots of the outside, and then they had me fly through as well through some side-by-sides and stuff. So it was cool. It was real exciting, and hopefully I can work with them some more in the future. But yeah, I really would like to work with some big companies like that as well, some dealerships and stuff. Because I think fly through, like you were talking about, for businesses and stuff.
Such a great way to market for them. You know?
Yeah. Just what's some of the cool projects that you've been doing?
Yes.
Recently.
Yeah, recently I got hired on to film some shots for the Rosa Power
sick.
Sports. So
Shout out Rosa Yamaha.
Yeah, they actually
Power Sports.
Yeah, they used to sponsor me way back in the day when I used to race too. So it was cool. They had me come through. I did some shots of the outside, and then I went and flew through some side by sides, like in their cages, and then over some bikes and stuff. For business, like what you were talking about, like I think that's such a huge thing to see your inventory or have people see just a clip of going through. And now with drones, like these little small ones, I can fly pretty much through anything. I mean, I did a fly through where I flew through a van's window and then came out the driver window.
So sweet.
So it's like there's so many things that you can do. And for social media, those 10, 15-second clips, you put a bunch of those on there.
Yeah, anytime I upload something more than like 30 seconds, it's like doesn't get as many views. Yeah. Sometimes I'll get it. It just depends on the time you post. But yeah, I've noticed like short videos get the best views. I mean, like
trending songs.
I've literally gained. I started out with 47 subscribers, like, because I stopped doing the vlogs for a while, and I wasn't doing shorts, I wasn't doing clips, I wasn't doing everything I was supposed to do, and then I just like, I'm gonna start doing shorts. I should have been doing this, you know. So literally, with 4 weeks ago, I started doing shorts, and I've gained 180 subscribers just from shorts, like random little videos.
Yeah.
So we're not only doing the podcast on this channel. If you like cool videos, where you go on the profile, look at our shorts. We got tons of funny dirt bike shorts, Grom shorts. I just throw anything up on there for entertainment. You know what I mean? So
some pretty sweet aroma vlogs too. So
but yeah,
go check them out.
Yeah, check those out too for sure. So that was really cool. That's really cool. The Rosa Yamaha commercial. Let's make this announcement. We got an announcement to make on the It's Gonna Be Sweet podcast. But Skycam, he's came from the bottom and he's coming to the top now. What's his next project you got coming up?
Yeah, so I reached out to the drone pilot that was flying. Shout out to Daniel, who was flying last year's outdoor nationals. Talked to him. He's doing the amateur nationals, and then I said, "Hey, if you ever need anybody to sit in for you or help out," and he asked me if Hangtown was my local track. I said, "Don't tease me." And then he's like, "I think I may have a spot for you to fly Hangtown," and that was, man, I want to say December or so.
My bad.
Oh, sorry.
It's all good.
So it's about December or so. He said, "I think you might be able to fly Hangtown." And then like the next couple months, he's like, "Hey, I think it's going to happen. Are you actually available for the first 3 rounds?" So Paula, Hangtown, and Colorado. I said, "Dude, just please don't tease me. You can't just tell me this and say I'll get back to you."
Yeah.
And then he's like, "All right, I just got hired on by Feld." He goes, "Feld's going to hire you on as well for the first 3 rounds." And I was like,
"So this will be on Map TV. So where can they watch this?"
Peacock. So
Peacock
this is,
TV.
Yeah. So this is the actual live broadcast team. So they had a budget for 1 drone pilot last year. This year they have the budget for 2 pilots. So I'm going to be filming with him. Paula will be filming with his drones or their drones at Paula, and then the Hangtown will be filming with my drones. And then hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll take my drone to Colorado and hopefully the rest of the year. But they basically want to give me a trial run basically for the first 3 races, and then if it goes well, then hopefully just keep doing it.
Congratulations, bro.
Thanks, man.
Congratulations, bro.
Super exciting.
That's really awesome. I mean, because think about it, from where you started with the followers, and then now everybody sees you out there. You're doing your thing. You built a business. I mean,
and just to clarify for anyone that doesn't know, That's the pro motocross season that's starting in a week
weeks.
or 2
Yeah.
weeks.
Yep. I fly down to Paula on Wednesday.
And so his footage will be the footage that's on Peacock on the broadcast. So that's why it's so exciting.
And how are you feeling? The only shitty part about the season coming up, how are you feeling about Tomac not being out there?
Very disappointed. You know,
I mean, think about it. There's so many riders.
It's legitimately when it happened and all the injuries, I was like, man, I'm gonna be able to chase Tomac in the outdoors this year. Like that's gonna be sick. He's not gonna come back and retire.
He might be there, right?
I mean, I can't.
That's what I was thinking.
He was already gonna retire.
Yep.
So to me,
Yep.
if he was gonna retire and he got hurt, like he was doing so well, it's like, why would you retire? Like, let's just do this whole season is what I'm thinking he thought. Yeah. But now it's like you just blew out your Achilles. Like even if you were 21, that's a tough one to recover from.
Oh my gosh.
Now
yeah.
I think he's what, 31, I think is what he is, or
Yeah.
he's like
Yeah.
almost 30.
Hitting the
That's
barrier.
exactly when your body starts.
Yeah,
doing shit
so it's
that.
even though he didn't win this championship, it definitely was his. So it's sad that his injuries, you know, there's all these injuries for this next year. I mean, shoot, I'm a big Malcolm Stewart fan. I was sad he got hurt so early.
Oh my,
man,
so isn't it crazy how
so
many? I don't think I've seen
what is
this.
it? Is it the tracks? Is it the bikes are too fast? Is it a comment? I feel like the tracks
The
are
tracks are gnarly. I
they're
feel like
gnarly.
these
And the
jumps are
bikes
so
are-
Combination of the
kicky.
both.
and the bikes are so fast.
But remember when we were racing, the jumps were more like
Yeah.
they didn't have these like peaky like
Landing
super,
takeoffs.
like what like
Oh,
it's almost like freestyle jumps.
Red,
you know?
Red Bluff Supercross. They did. That was one of the
Yeah.
scariest tracks I ever rode. They had a triple that was straight up and down. Kramer Patterson snapped his leg over it right in front
Oh
of me.
my, I think I remember that.
He like jumped off the bike like in the air and we're like right next to each other and he just lands on his feet. I think there's like a video on YouTube of it too. I'll see
Gnarly.
if I can send it. But yeah, so I'm real excited because now I get to go film the actual pros. They're like, so do you know all the riders, right? And I was like, I know all the riders. Yep, I could probably tell you what each one looks like
For
in the
sure.
corner just by growing up and being in the sport my whole life. So, but now every time I'd leave the local tracks, I'm like, if I just had a shot, if I could just go film with my drone one of the motocross races and show them that it's a different view than the type of drone. And that's why Daniel's been like, hey, like we should have this style drone, which is what they do now, and then one of these, and we tag team where they go between.
So you'll be more of kind of the FPV guy, because I remember seeing last year that drone that they have had
kinda
up, it's way up there,
way
you
up
know,
there.
and it
Exactly.
kind of shows the whole group of guys.
Yep. So Paula, we're both going to be flying that same type of drone. So we're both going to be doing that tag teaming. And
Got
then
it.
He won't be at Hangtown. So the plan is, because I need a spotter, I have my dad who spots for me. He comes to all the races and stuff, and he basically watches my video system, makes sure I'm clear. He'll tell me like, hey, you have a rider 10 feet or you have a rider 2 corners back. So I know where everything's going on because I have him. So I need to have him with me at the races. Otherwise, when you're under the goggles, if someone's standing next to you or starts doing something, or you can't control your surroundings. So he's like instrumental for.
That's so cool. You have that relationship
Yeah.
with your dad, bro.
We grew up racing motocross, and now
and he's the bouncer when somebody tries to come up. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking too. Like your dad's probably like,
exactly.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
sure Peacock's gonna set you up with a nice little area.
So
I mean, right?
That's the thing. Yeah. So the way they do their spotters, because there's a broadcast team, they don't typically have a spotter stand right there. They have spotters all over, and you're on headsets.
Oh,
so
wow.
you basically have a lot of spotters. But for me, since I'm not those drones, you fly through a remote and you look at a screen. For these kind of drones, I'm under the goggles, so I can't I can lift up like an emergency. I'll take the goggles off, but ideally, when I take off and land, my goggles are always down.
Yep.
So having him come in, so it's basically going to be a test at Hangtown. If they like the FPV footage at Hangtown, then it sounds like they'll pay for him to come along with me, and then we'll be able to travel.
Gosh.
Travel the nationals.
the
with my
one
old man,
the one
you know?
cool thing about you doing the drone thing is like I've noticed every time like a dude does drones like for like Laguna Seca, any of the big events, like I feel like the vendors get neglected a lot.
Yeah.
So if you can, you know, throughout the day when you have time, if you could fly over the vendors, that'd
Yeah.
be dope. Just not even like they're probably not going to put it on TV, but even just to have like a clip of it, like all the because I mean the vendors like there's like we're supporting these tracks, so I think it'd be cool to like include the vendors.
So it's kind of tough. So there's a
Yeah.
catch-22. So FAA says you're not allowed to fly over people unless you're
Oh.
traversing over like from here to there,
Gotcha.
and you're like doing it in a certain way. So if they were to have that set up, like they have a route for us to fly, it could be. But
Yeah.
basically what I was told
I
is
gotcha.
the director's going to tell you like, hey, go go so-and-so, go follow so-and-so.
Yep.
And so we're right now, basically, I'm getting paid by one rider, or I'm just filming whoever's out front. Now
Gotcha.
it'll be like, hey, you're a spotter. Tell us what's going on in this corner. So it's going to be definitely a change of pace for
Yep.
me, but it's something I'm super excited about. Because I mean, essentially, I won't be doing the same kind of flying. Even with my drone, like they won't allow me to get as close as I do for local races.
Exactly, yeah.
But I'll still definitely it'll be different than what they've had in the years past. So as long as everything works right now, problem is, it's not a problem, but just like my insurance policy is $2 million. For Feld, I need $5 million. So I'm going through that, getting all of that handled. FAA, state approvals, things like that. There's just a lot of steps, and I've gone through it so far.
Yeah.
But now it's
jumping through hoops.
Now it's the next level, and Feld's essentially saying, "Hey, we want to hire you on as a contractor. We want you to handle all of this stuff." And
so sick.
I have a friend who he works for a company in Southern California. I mean, they get paid, massive money. They travel around the country. I'm basically myself doing all of this, and it's kind of crazy. I definitely didn't think 2 years ago I would even be in this situation. Now I'm like, man, I'm gonna film the outdoor nationals. Hopefully the whole season.
Yeah, and you just don't know in business like where it's gonna take you.
Exactly.
That's what Ice Cube was talking about. It's like I didn't think that I was gonna be like the top West Coast rapper.
Yeah.
Like he didn't know he didn't even know. And then now you came from where you were, dude. That's amazing. I mean,
Showing
like
up
what
at
you're,
East Street. Let me film your race, Jesse.
Like I really am like super proud of you, bro.
Thanks,
like
man.
seriously,
I appreciate
That one
congratulations.
decision you make, I mean, we were talking about it on the last pod. It can send you this way or can send you this way,
And this is
I'm
why
super excited for you.
This is why you get paid the big bucks. I mean, think about what he just said when I asked him to fly over the vendors. I mean, you got to know these things. Like, think about you getting a job and he didn't know that, and then he goes and flies over us. Now you get fired. You know what I mean? So you have to know. Like, and that's what I was going to ask you. Any advice you would give someone that's like trying to start a drone business or somebody that's trying to get into this, like the right steps to take? I mean,
the drone business is kind of a different niche, and I would definitely say anybody that wants to get into it, I would highly suggest looking into drone racing first.
Yes.
Just because it teaches you so much, you crash so much, you're around a lot of people who have a lot of experience. Because when I first started, I couldn't even find anybody to help me with anything like locally. Like everybody was out of state. There was nobody around. Yeah. And then once you find someone, like on my website, I build and repair drones for people. So people will bring me their equipment or ask me, hey, I want a drone that does this. And so I'll build them to do that as well. And so the racing aspect, you learn a lot. So I would say if anybody wants to get into whether it's like photography, real estate, fly through videos, start with racing, even if it's not to be like super competitive, but just to go out and experience it and to see what happens. Because if you just fly by yourself a few times, you might get some confidence. Like, oh man, I'm a great pilot. Because before I showed up
around people, I mean,
when I showed up to a drone race and I was flying around trees, I was like, oh man, I'm a great pilot. I went over the tree. I went under the tree. I went through the tree branch. Like I was like, and then I showed up to a drone race and I was like, holy crap, these guys are doing 80 miles an hour. Like,
you think you're going fast and you see these guys, you're like,
I'm like, okay, can I make it through the gate? All right, I made it through. Oh, there's another gate. Oh, why are the gates so close together? Like,
practice and practice and practice.
There was this, I remember my first drone race, it's a corkscrew where they put two gates next to each other and you fly in one and you have to flip and then come in the other way. But that's like a normal thing. Or they'd have like a triple corkscrew. So you'd have three gates where you'd go in one and you just basically corkscrew through each.
That's crazy.
Or like a split S where you'd have to come over the top of it and within 5 feet from the gate to the ground, you had to basically turn your drone upside down and come through it backwards. And you're doing that at a race pace with other drones around you.
It's crazy.
So it's like you learn so much because you're like, I've done this way faster and way tighter courses with somebody that's like trying to is going to hit me.
Yeah.
Midair collisions every drone race. Like every drone race there's midairs. Like that's just a standard. So you get used to that. So now people are like, oh, how are you flying around the track? It's like, well, the dirt bikes stay down there. The trees don't really move, so I know where I'm going to be. If I'm in trouble, I always have up.
Exactly.
And that's the thing. Especially a lot of these nationals, I'm excited because a lot of them don't have high tree cover. MMX, man, that whole track is under trees.
And riverfront.
Good point.
Oh, my gosh.
Good point. Wow.
MMX's sand track is probably the most difficult track. Like, there's spots where you can only go about 10 feet higher than the rider's head. If you have someone that's fast coming up behind, you have to think, you can't see them, but you know they're coming. Where are they going to be at? How high are you? And then where's your exit if somebody comes in and bonsais into a corner?
That's a big challenge.
Yeah, and it's easy to just think, oh, I'm just chasing the rider, but realistically, it's you're dealing with everything. There's a flagger, there's a mom that ran on the track, there's someone that did this. Oh, someone jumped on the track that shouldn't have been there. Yeah, it's legitimately like it's crazy. Like all the things that I see. East Street, I get attacked by birds. They have those little
hit a bird yet?
I've definitely hit birds.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
So there's these little. I don't know.
Sorry, tree huggers.
Yeah,
No, I'm just
sorry.
kidding.
Yeah, it happens.
Yeah.
Actually, hawks hunt drones. You can find tons of videos
No
of hawks
shit.
taking drones like mine down, like straight taking them
That's
down.
gnarly.
They probably
record
see it as a threat and just
and they'll literally
probably
take
think
it
it's a
back to the
bird.
nest. Yeah.
eliminate.
Take it back to the net. It's on camera.
because
Wow.
the guys have their GoPros
Oh
or they're
my
recording their
gosh.
goggles. So the whole thing that's happening, you're watching it. Like you're seeing it all happen, and it's like it's crazy. Yeah, big birds will take them down.
That's crazy.
So 'cause it's a loud whine. They're probably thinking it's something's after
Yeah.
my little ones. So
Yeah. Wow.
but
That's a good clip right there.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So like you said, I mean, getting into drones, I mean, he's raced them, built them, does the events. I mean, it's definitely not just getting a drone and going out there and thinking you're a master at it.
Yeah.
He's a master of his craft. So it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, it takes practice makes perfect, and you've practiced plenty, I'm sure.
Yeah, I didn't know how to code, and now I essentially, to get the drone to do what you want, there's so much code that you need to put in. I didn't know what a CLI was before. I didn't know how to copy any of that stuff and then put it into and program the drone. Like that was stuff that I hated to learn, but I just sat there and just years of doing it. And when you race drones, you want your drone to run the best, so you learn through that, like how to make it fly the best. And then it was, now I'm filming, now I need to fly the smoothest. I don't need it to be fast. I needed to do longer flights and be as smooth as possible. So that's really in the last couple of years what I've learned is how to make the drone fly smoother than what I did before. Because before it was, you're literally wide open every corner, just as fast as you can
Controlling all that power.
Exactly, as quick as the.
Because I'm sure the motors these days are pretty powerful.
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
Right.
I mean, I could build a drone that does 130, 140 miles an hour easy
Wow.
all day long. I mean,
Wow.
that's pretty common to be able to build it. It's just not many people do it because doing that, you're breaking the law. So a lot of people are like, oh, I might post a video. You can get waivers for it, but you just kill batteries.
Like
And-
that one guy that flew the plane. He jumped out of the plane. Do you see that video?
No.
So
Oh,
he
I
jumped
saw
out of
that.
the plane
I saw that.
and skydived and
Yeah.
and then let the plane crash. Not a drone, but it was
And
like
he posted it on YouTube saying it was an accident, but he did it on purpose.
Now he's getting in
and
trouble.
He just pled guilty in court like yesterday.
because you could have hit
So-
somebody. I mean, what if somebody's
Where did
hiking?
Where did he fly it into?
It
It
was
was
just
in
like
the
a-
Santa Barbara mountains.
Yeah, mountain.
Stop it.
What if there's somebody hiking?
Yeah.
That seems like
or
it's
animals?
way too popular.
I know,
place.
right?
Because think about it.
In
Even
the
if it's-
ocean?
Even if it's a bear,
You know?
what if you hit a bear? That's illegal. You can't kill a
Oh,
bear.
man.
A
So
little
it-
Cessna or something, but
What an
and it's
idiot.
like, dude, no shit, you got caught. You had 6 GoPros hooked up to the thing, like you were filming.
What
you know,
an
like
idiot.
he said, "Oh, engine out, engine failure," and he jumped out of the thing. I don't know. It was pretty crazy, but
Wow.
yeah, he got in some trouble.
Yeah. So, so yeah, he's making it. He's going big time now. But you still are doing the NorCal motocross track. So maybe let them know. Let's let the guests or the watchers know maybe how to get in touch with you. Give them some of your. We'll throw all your Instagram and all your social media platforms in the description. So if you guys want to hit Chris up, he is probably going to be available at
Yeah.
some of these races. So
Yeah, with the Pro Motocross series, I'll be gone. They had me fly out Wednesday, Thursday before, and then Saturday night. So I don't know for the next few weekends. I'm probably gonna try and do Turlock this coming up, and I'll try and do the Pro Motocross series when I don't have those. I hope they hire me on full time for the rest of the season. If they do, then I don't know how many local races I'll do, but it's usually I'll be home Saturday night, so they're not paying amazing right now. So
Yeah,
I may go do and just be like, hey, I'm gonna do less instead of me trying to do 10 to 20 per event. I may say, hey, I'm coming out and I'm doing 10 riders. Who are the 10? And then going home early. Because I'll take from Moto 1 to the last Moto of the day, and I'm typically one of the last people that's leaving at these events right now. Because if you have only 2 motos and I book your first moto, your second moto, I want to give you that opportunity. I want to be like, hey, it's too late in the day. I don't want to help you out. It's like, no, you're out there racing, risking your life. I want to give you that footage. I don't just look at it as like, oh, this is a business, I'm making money. But I look as I have a lot of experience in motocross, and I want to share that,
Exactly.
I learned a lot from a lot of people that helped me out, and if there's something I can do to help out, point something out that, saves you from getting head shake like I used to get, or, go eat it, go over the bars because my
Exactly.
suspension was not right up. Anyway, I can help out.
And that's the cool part about Chris is he was a motocross racer. So, you're getting somebody that loves the sport. This is why he's doing it, because he loves to do it. The best business owners out there are the ones that are doing it because they love what they do. Give them your Instagram, maybe
yeah.
TikTok.
Yeah, so it's everything's under Bud Skycam. So last name Bud, Budd, and then it's with an S. So Buds and then Skycam, SKYCAM.
And we will throw that down in the
Super
description.
Super corny name. If anybody wants to give me a better name to change to,
Comment below.
Yeah.
Any names that you think that would be dope.
It was
I
literally.
thought it was cool.
I thought it was good.
Okay, well that's good to hear.
Well, I know
'cause,
you.
yeah.
I know his nickname is C Bud.
Yeah.
back
I'm no
in the day.
hater.
So
Yeah.
and that's how you got. I mean, you got the nickname Chris Bud, right? I mean, that's
yeah,
pretty much how you
exactly.
got it.
Yeah, the Kings used to be it was C Webb back in the day.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
my dad's buddy was like, "Oh, you're C Bud."
Hell
And that's
yeah.
what stuck. So my kids are actually Carson and Charlie because my wife was like, "Oh, they got to be C Buds too," and I was like,
Sweet.
That's how I know him as C Bud. That's when I say it's C Bud. I
Yeah,
don't even say Chris.
Yeah, most people for a long time, like basically from 14 to like 18, I only signed up as a race. My dad only signed me up as C. And my dad would only call me C, and just from Dave calling
That's
me
cool.
like C or C Bud, and so I just went as that forever. And people were like,
That's
"Oh,
cool.
your name's Chris?" I was like, "Yeah, it's really Chris." Like, "Oh, okay." Like everyone, but that
You're
was
like
kinda was.
C Bud.
Yeah, yeah, it's with Chris. Yeah, it's close.
Well,
So,
thanks for joining us, bro.
Yeah,
This
we
was
appreciate
a good
you
time.
coming out to our warehouse and joining us on the podcast. We also appreciate the viewers out there. Thank you, whoever's viewing this. I know we're new, but
Yeah.
but it's a great podcast. I feel like it was a good one. Like,
Solid.
subscribe, comment, hit us up. Comment below if you have any suggestions or feedback or the new name for Bud Skycam.
yeah.
I like the name, but if you think there's a better one, comment below.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. I appreciate it.
We're excited for Hangtown. We'll see you guys there.
Yee.
Yep.
That's a wrap.
All right, buddy.
Good one.
It's gonna be sweet.